Welcome, everyone. Good to see you today. I'm glad you're with me. Deborah Seagraves again with Rivers of Living Water. We have today a message I've titled Love Your Enemies. It's right out of the scriptures. I'm starting in Matthew 5:43 through 47. And I'm just kind of giving you an overview without reading the whole thing. Jesus started telling us in the scripture, you've heard the saying, to love your neighbor and to hate your enemy. But he goes on to say, we're to love our enemies. And you know what? We're supposed to even pray for those who persecute us. He let us know. He's letting us know in this behavior, what I just read, loving your enemies, praying for those who persecute you, we are showing others that we are the children of our Father in heaven. We're looking like a Christian. We are a good witness. Following this is being a good witness. He goes on to say that God makes the sun shine on the just and the unjust, wicked or good, and he lets it rain on, same thing, on the upright, on those who do wrong. So he isn't a respecter of person. So Jesus tells us, if we only love our own, how's that any different than we Christians loving our church family and our own family and friends? Because those who are doing wicked and doing things wrong, they love their own. So what reward do we have, he says, if all we were loving is just our own and we didn't even want to have anything to do with our enemies or anybody that has made theirself our enemy, or we feel they're an enemy because of what they've done. It could go on either side. But if you go into Romans 12:20, he says something very interesting. He says, if your enemy is hungry, you're to feed him. And you'll find this in the Old Testament too. And if he's thirsty, give him a drink. And he goes on to say, in doing this, it's like heaping hot coals on their head. And you'll also find that same scripture in Proverbs 25. I think it's 21 and 22. So when I think about the heaping of hot coals on their head, I think about, someone the other day had told me that they believed they had heaped hot coals on their head by when they ran into someone in the store who had, I guess you could say, he made himself an enemy of my friend. And but my friend, being saved these last couple of years, when he seen him, he smiled and waved at him. I think he even said hello to him. And he did the same thing when he left the store and ran into him. But both times he turned his back on him. He said he believed this was heaping hot coals on it, as like heaping hot coals on his head. And I said, I think so. It says, it talks about if they're hungry, give them something to eat. Let's say you're working somewhere and you're on a shift and you can't get away from this person who's persecuted you. You work right in that same cubicle area or on that same shift in a factory or something. You can offer them something to eat. You could offer them a little energy bar. You could offer them a bottle of water. So really, when I look at heaping hot coals on their head, is instead of acting mean, retaliating to anything the enemy says or does, you're doing what they call the word act of kindness. You're doing something good onto somebody. You're not making yourself an enemy to them. Now, there is much in this message. And so right now, I'm going to make this part 1. And so, keeping this all in mind, that we're to love our enemy. Thank you for joining me, and please follow on the next video, part 2 of loving your enemies.